Is that on? Can you hear me all right? Okay. I don't have the greatest history with the wretched contraption, so I've asked Cody to advance the slides for me while I talk. So this morning we're going to be looking at sites, S-I-T-E-S, sites, associated with Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, depending on how far I get. We're doing the class on the history and geography of the Bible story, and while the preacher's gone, I just want to say that I notice a lot of people don't have the book. It's kind of hard to participate in the class if you don't. So if you don't have one to be able to fill in your blanks and work on your maps, you're kind of cheating yourself out of the ability to participate. So that's a plug for the book. We were looking recently at the question of where did the Israelites cross the Red Sea? And that's kind of where I was inspired to pick this topic. Daddy said, on the bottom. Obviously. But, does it even matter where they crossed? Or is it the fact that God miraculously parted the waters and they did it? I think one thing I'm not saying it's not good to know these things, because it is. Knowing history and geography helps put things in order, helps you understand the logistics of how stuff happened. But is our faith built on the existence of physical objects? Or is it based on the Word of God? A lot of people want to worship things that are physical. All the way back to the beginning of time, you've got idolatry and idol worship and people wanting places and things to be holy. The whole point of our religion is that it's spiritual. So, it's nice to be able to see the physical places that are associated with stories in the Bible, but it's also good to realize that people like to turn those things into something that is worshipped itself, like the temple, or you remember, who was it? Had to destroy the brazen serpent that Moses had used to stop the plague because people were worshiping the statue of the snake. If you get carried away with yourself and start to make physical places and physical objects the focus of your religion, then you've really missed the point of what Jesus came to do. The Old Testament is based off of a physical nation and a physical land and a physical temple, but is our religion based on that? Jesus told the woman from Samaria when she asked him, do we worship in Jerusalem or on Mount Gerizim? What did he tell her?
Day's coming, neither one.
It won't matter. And it's a good thing because both of those places were destroyed. So to start, I guess I'll start with Abraham. We've been looking at the things that Abraham did. Cody, could you go ahead and throw up the first slide? I have a little iPad here that's showing me what you're looking at. Can anybody see what this says at the bottom? I can't tell how big it is. Nablus City. This is 1 mile west of Shechem. Shechem and the Terebinth of Moor. This is a place that is associated with Abraham. It was in Ephraim after the 12 tribes got their land. Then the Samaritans lived there. Shechem was destroyed in 67 A.D. It is next to Mount Gerizim, so I suppose that's the mountain in the background. Nablus is 1 mile west of where Shechem was. Just to give you an idea of the current population mix in this place, there are 11 mosques, one Greek Orthodox church, or some kind of Orthodox, and an ancient Samaritan synagogue. So it's primarily a Muslim place. It is in Palestine, and it has a population of 126,000. I don't know if it surprises you that there are places mentioned in the Bible that still have residents and are modern cities, but that's not Shechem, but 1 mile away is kind of like Longview and Gregton, so same deal. All right, I think there's 2 pictures of that. Go ahead and move forward. Yeah. The first Palestinian city to join the UNICEF campaign, whatever that is. Okay, next one. The next one I don't have a picture of. Bethel is not here. That's Hebron. Bethel and the altar at Bethel, where Abraham pitched his tent and Jacob dreamed about the ladder. It is on the border of Benjamin and Ephraim, 12 miles north of Jerusalem. What do you remember about Bethel in the days of Jeroboam? One in Dan, one in Bethel, set up to prevent the Israelites from going where? To Jerusalem. Look, we don't want you taking your business to Jerusalem. Stay up here and worship my calf. Okay, and so you had Dan at the north and Bethel at the south. Can you believe how small these places are? I mean, it's only 12 miles from Jerusalem to Bethel, and that's where the worship of God stops and the worship of Jeroboam's idols begins. That's like where? Gladewater? Uh-huh. House of God, yes. It's mentioned in Genesis 28, Genesis 12, Genesis 35. There's almost no trace of this place, nothing there to see. That's why I don't have a picture of it. But this is Hebron. Hebron is the largest city on the West Bank. The West Bank of what? Jordan. Okay, it's not on the Jordan, but it's on the side of Israel that's west of Jordan. Okay, this is the largest Palestinian city after Gaza. A population of 215,000 Palestinians and 700 Jewish settlers. What is a Jewish settler? Well, there are people in the modern day Jewish world who believe that the greater Israel would include the territories that were given to the Palestinians, and if they just go there and sort of squat on it and nobody makes them leave, then that makes it what? Theirs. And so those are the people who ignore the treaty arrangements that were made and just kind of invade and say, well, I'm here, make me leave. And so who does it really belong to? Well, I don't know. This is where the cave of Machpelah is. What is that? That's what I originally started looking for, was the cave of Machpelah, and then it just snowballed into everything else. Middle Eastern politics. Way more than I ever wanted to know about people that are seriously annoying. The Isaac Hall is a mosque. The Abraham and Jacob halls are synagogues. These are both in Hebron. Do I want to go ahead and talk about the cave of Machpelah? Go ahead and advance one. Yeah, there it is. The cave of the Patriarchs. Does that look like a cave to you? Well, I wonder why you would need that. Supposedly, this is the second holiest place in Judaism after Temple Mount and the fourth holiest place in Islam. I don't know how you get a list of what's more holy, but they've got them. This is in the Palestinian territories, which refers to the British mandate for Palestine. It's been militarily occupied by Israel since 1967 in an area including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip was occupied by Egypt and the West Bank by Jordan after 1948 in the Arab-Israeli War until the Six-Day War of 1967. Since the Palestinian Declaration of Independence in 1988, 135 UN member nations have recognized the state of Palestine, but it has not been recognized by the U.S., Israel, or most Western nations. Greater Israel is commonly used to mean the state of Israel, plus the Palestinian territories. Revisionist Zionism also includes the former Emirate of Transjordan. The West Bank is Judea and Samaria. Most countries do not recognize West Jerusalem or Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Palestinians regard East Jerusalem as capital of a Palestinian state. Politics. There's a lot of that associated with these places because they're holy sites for three different religions, and whoever's running the show at the time wants it to be theirs and not other people's. Maybe I should go ahead and bring up the status quo. No, I think I'll wait on that. Don't let me forget to tell you about the status quo. All right. What happened at the cave of Machpelah? Sarah was buried there. How did Abraham get the right to put her in it? He bought it. That was the only land he ever owned, was a cave. And it was basically a graveyard. And who was in it besides her? Abraham. Probably the last time Isaac and Esau ever spoke to each other. They both came to bury their daddy. Who else? Isaac and Rebekah, I think. And Jacob. Anyway, it's the cave of the Patriarchs. This is not a cave. This is a building that was built on top of the cave because pilgrims would come wanting to see the cave. And if you're the wrong pilgrims under the wrong regime, what's liable to happen to you? You're probably going to get attacked. So maybe you need a castle on top of the cave to make sure you don't get killed while you're there visiting. What does all of this traveling bring with it? When people come to see something, what do? They spend money. What did Jesus do with the money changers in the temple? Were the people running the temple more interested in how you were worshiping, or were they more interested in like changing your money into temple shekels and making sure that you paid for your sacrifices and that you spent money at the taverns? I mean, running the temple was the way they made their money, right? So a lot of these pilgrimage sites also carry with them a lot of revenue, and who gets the money also becomes an issue. So the cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron, does the Bible tell us to make a big production out of where Abraham and Sarah were buried? I mean, is it kind of up to you whether or not you want to consider that significant? I mean, you could go see it if you want to, but we're not commanded to do it, are we? Our religion doesn't require that. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. This is Beersheba. I sent 3 of this one. Go ahead and advance it. Yeah. Does that look like a Bible town to you? That is the largest city in the Negev desert of southern Israel, 210,000 people. One more, I think, of Beersheba. Yeah. I was supposed to write something down about that place, but I apparently forgot. But you've heard of it before. Does anybody remember why we're supposed to remember Beersheba? I'm just asking because I don't remember it right now. I've only had 4 cups of coffee. Okay, go to the next one. We're in Cairo now. So this is, that's what that was. No wonder I didn't recognize it. Go back one if you can. Yeah. This is in Cairo. the church of St. Sergius and Bacchus. Of course, we know that churches are not buildings, right? But they're called churches and they are buildings. So this is the church of St. Sergius and Bacchus. It is a Coptic church, which is the Egyptian Christian church. It is supposedly at the site where Pharaoh's daughter found Moses in the basket. Also a rest stop for the Holy Family when they fled to Egypt. And it was built in the 300s. Okay, I mean, that building was built in the 300s. That's like 1,700 years old. And here's the interior. That's a picture taken in 2015. Okay. That's something else. Okay, I think this is Ben Ezra's synagogue, which supposedly is where Jeremiah gathered the Jews in Egypt. You remember during the captivity when the Jews were taken to Egypt, and it was after somebody revolted, after they had cut a deal with, I believe it was the Babylonians, and then they revolted and got banished, but then they were able to come back. Ben Ezra Synagogue is associated with that. Next slide. Yeah. Can you see what's in the middle of this room with the arches? That is the 10 Commandments. Why would that be in a synagogue? Okay, next one. That's a view from the galleries. Yeah, this is built in the 300s. I'm sure it's been remodeled once or twice, but still. Keep going. Oh, St. Catherine's Monastery. This is in the Sinai Peninsula. It actually sits between Mount Horeb and Mount Sinai. St. Catherine's Monastery is supposed to be where Moses saw the burning bush. Now, how do they know that? Well, I mean, somebody said it, therefore it must be true. Does it really, does it say in the Bible the GPS coordinates for the burning bush? I don't think so. But anyway, this place is pretty historic. If you like history, it has, it was built in 548 to 565, so it is close to 1,600 years old. That thing right there, in the middle of the desert. The oldest continuously inhabited Christian monastery in the world. Has been continuously lived in for 1,600 years by monks. It has the oldest continuously operating library in the world and the largest collection of early Christian icons. Okay, next slide. Its official name is the Sacred Autonomous Royal Monastery of St. Catherine of the Holy and God-trodden Mount Sinai. Yeah, Mount Sinai is like right next door. Behind it there is Mount Horeb. Okay, next slide. There's some of the inhabitants. I don't know why the headline of this story is the monastery is starving and it shuts down. I don't know why they wouldn't have any food, but I didn't read the story. I just saw the headline. That's who lives there. Okay, next one. That's the inside. Next one. Okay, the well. The well of Moses. This supposedly is where Moses drew water for the daughters of Jethro and married his wife, who was named what? Starts with a Z. Zipporah. Okay, this is the, this is where Moses met Zipporah, supposedly. It is at Al-Badah in Saudi Arabia. Do we really associate Saudi Arabia with holy places in the Bible? But where was Moses when he met her?
Well, I mean, at the cave.
Midian. Remember, her father was the priest of Midian. Okay, next slide. There's a ladder down to it. I mean, it's bad enough to have to haul water, much less go up and down a ladder with it. They probably didn't have the ladder back then. All right, next one. Oyan Musa. Musa is the Arabic word for Moses, and Oyan is springs, I suppose, because this is the 12 springs of the prophet Moses at Magna, Saudi Arabia. Next slide. Moses Spring to be turned into a resort for therapeutic tourism. If you want a hot tub at the Springs of Moses, you can just go ahead and book your trip. They've got a whole bunch of Moses sites all strung together so that you can do them like in 3 days in a bus tour. I mean, after all, if you've got water in the desert, you might as well do something useful with it. This is in the middle of a desert. Why do people go to a place like this in the middle of the desert? Because there's water and trees and date palms and stuff like that. It's an oasis. Yeah, that's nice. That's why the 12 springs. What happened at the 12 springs in the Bible? I mean, they got there, and what about the water? It was bitter. And so Moses did what? He threw a tree in it. Some people who kind of misunderstand the point of things think that it was a magic tree. Was the power in the tree? No. Where was the power? It was God's ability to do anything if you what? Obey him. The fact that it was a tree doesn't matter. It could have been anything. He could have like thrown a shoe in if that's what God said to do. So don't be looking for the magic tree that makes bad water good. There is no such thing. But I'm sure if people thought there was, they would be looking for it. And then they would come up with some ad campaign to get you to buy some of it. All right, so those are Moses' 12 springs. What did the children of Israel do there? They drank the water after it wasn't bitter. Yeah, for 5 seconds they quit complaining, Rebecca says. Okay. They're amazingly like humans, aren't they? Next slide. There it is again. Yeah, that's in the Sinai Peninsula. All right, next one. There it is again, only that's like the visitor center. Okay, next one. What do you think that is? Go ahead to the next slide. If you're looking for religious sites that you can show tourists, what would that be? The rock that Moses struck, obviously, because it split the rock and water came out, right? Well, it's a split rock. So that's the one, right? That has to be it, okay? That's at Rephidim. Jabal al-Lawz, Magna, in Saudi Arabia. They'll take you there for a slight fee. I don't see any water, but, you know, they're through wandering in the wilderness now, and they don't need it, right? There you go. Next slide. This is Mount Sinai and the 3,000 steps of repentance. If you did something bad and they made you walk up 3,000 steps up to the top of Mount Sinai because of it, would you do it twice? See? It's just like being sent to the corner and told to write, "I will not throw gum at Johnny," for 1,000 times. There's actually 3,750, because 3,000 steps only gets you to Elijah's basin, and another 750 to the top. Supposedly, one monk laid this whole staircase as a form of penance. He must have done something really bad. Keep going. That's one of the chapels on the way up to the top of Mount Sinai. And the next one? Yeah, there's some villagers who've just been like walking around for their health. There's a whole list of precautionary things for potential visitors, like don't do this if you have a heart condition, etc. They wouldn't have to advise me. If there's not a tram, I'm not going to see it. But that's Mount Sinai. What happened there? Moses got the law, yeah. And then what did he do with them after he got to the bottom? He threw them down. He was so disgusted that the people are like, well, out came this calf. Like, it just did that. And you just throw a bunch of gold in a pot and a calf walks out. It's like, you people are beyond my patience level. And then he had to go back up and get another one. I feel sorry for Moses sometimes. But that's it. That's Mount Sinai. Can you see that that is not exactly a place that is the land of milk and honey? Okay, keep going. Oh boy, here we are. Notes about Jesus. I mean, if you're going to fight over something, are you going to fight over something that's in the middle of nowhere, or are you going to fight over something that's not? I mean, you can do either one, but which is more likely? Like, would you have a fight over an asteroid? You can't get there. You can't do anything with it. Nobody's going to make any money off of it. So you might as well just, people want to say they own it, just kind of smile and wave and bless their heart. But if it's someplace that's smack in the middle of lots of traffic and 3 different religions claim that it's their holy site, then here it comes. Here it comes. This is where the money and power jumps in. And so what is this? The Basilica of the Annunciation. Where do you think that is? It's not Jerusalem. Where was Jesus from? Nazareth. They're going out on a limb and saying, oh, when Gabriel came and told Mary that she was going to have a baby by God, that this would have happened in Nazareth because that's where Jesus lived. Okay, there are 18 churches of the Annunciation in Nazareth. Why do we need 18? Because different branches of the Christian religion don't like to go to each other's churches, and so there's 18 of them. They all agree that we think Nazareth is where this happened, but we don't want to go to your church. I mean, how many churches are there in Longview that all claim to be Christian? I haven't counted them, but you can hardly throw a rock without hitting one. And so here there are 18 churches of the Annunciation. This is the Basilica. That's the Catholic one. Next slide. This is Nazareth. Yeah. It has a population of 77,000. It's in Israel. Okay, next slide. This is the interior of the Basilica of the Annunciation. Does it look old to you? It's not old. It was built in the 60s. They didn't like the one they had before, so they tore it down and built a more modern one. They hired a Jewish architect, and it's built in the style of Italian brutalism. And it was supposed to be cutting-edge modern in the 1960s, and it's supposed to be bigger and more comfortable, and so that more people would come see it. That's the Catholic one. Supposedly, this is where the angel Gabriel told Mary she would bear the Son of God. It's supposedly built over the cave where she lived. Does the Bible say that Mary lived in a cave? Then why did you pick a cave to say she lived at? What happens to all the houses that were built in like the 0th century BC? They're not there anymore. But is the cave? Well, if you want to show people something, then it better be what? Something that's there. Oh, she lived in a cave. I mean, like I said, is our faith built on these sites? No. This is just a place that people have said this is what happened there. Okay, so they build a church on top of it. Keep going. Oh, that's Mary's well. When did that get up there? Okay, keep going, one more. Okay, this is the Greek Orthodox Church of the Annunciation. Why do we have a Catholic one and a Greek Orthodox one, and they're in different places? Well, they're close enough that you could shoot an arrow and hit the other one. But because the Catholics had taken the best site, the Greek Orthodox decided that it actually was over the spring where Gabriel appeared to Mary while she was drawing water. Does the Bible actually say what Mary was doing when Gabriel got there? So what was she doing? Was she at home in the cave, or was she drawing water at the well? That depends on whether you're Catholic or Greek Orthodox. Okay? If the Bible doesn't say, does it matter if we know it? No. There's a whole lot of things that happened that they didn't tell us about because God didn't think it was what? It wasn't important. What's important is that she had Jesus, right? And that she went ahead and believed the angel, and it was counted to her as what? Faith and obedience. I mean, did it cost her anything to be the mother of Jesus? When she went to the temple, what did they tell her? A sword will pierce your heart. But she did it because she was a good servant of God. And so I'm glad that people appreciate that about her. But, you know, these basilicas and churches are evidence of religion, but not necessarily of a great understanding of what the Bible is really asking from us. And I'm not saying that these people who build this don't have faith. I'm just saying that they're manifesting it in a way that is emphasizing the material rather than the spiritual. Okay, there is all kinds of historical drama over this location. The first church built here was probably built in the 4th century. Mary's well is where the spring under this basilica flows to, and because it's in an open courtyard, it's kind of common property. And they say, well, obviously it was the well that Mary used because there's only one. That covers it. And guess what else? It's where Jesus drew water when he was a boy. Because, you know, she didn't do it all the time. She told him to go do it some. And he's the living water, right? So the well where he drew water has got to be significant. This church has been seen by people all through the years. It was mentioned by people who were writing in 670 AD, 1106 AD, 1185 AD, 1283 AD, 1300s, mid-1300s, 1500s. An Italian priest said people from multiple nations prayed there. 1563, an Italian visitor said it was in ruins and only the cave was left. In the late 1500s, it's called ruins. Said it was dedicated to Gabriel. Sometimes they call him Saint Gabriel. Can angels be saints? No, because you can't what? You can't baptize them. Anyway, there's a spring, there's a well down to it, and there are some remains of walls and paintings. That it's currently run by the Arab Orthodox Church, and it was the one that you see here was finished in 1769. Okay, next slide. That's the inside. Next slide. That's where you go down to the spring. Next slide. Okay, this is the Church of the Nativity. Why did I do the Church of the Annunciation first? Because I'm trying to go in order. The Annunciation happened before the Nativity. Okay, so whose idea was it that there ought to be these things? There's the Church of the Annunciation, the Church of the Nativity, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that are all originally about the same age. Do you have any idea who ordered them to be built? This is in the 300s. Constantine, the Emperor Constantine, who saw a vision of a cross at a battle and decided that in this sign we will conquer. It was clearly a message from God that he was supposed to run the Roman Empire with religious toleration for who? Christians. And he became a Christian. And then later the Roman Empire became a Christian empire. Constantine's mother, Helena, was very religious. They were both new converts and didn't know a whole lot about what they were doing, but they meant well. She went down to Israel on Constantine's orders to see what remained that could be turned into a religious shrine. And the people down there were just so excited that the emperor's mother was there that they showed her places that she was looking for. Obviously. I mean, if somebody important comes to your town and tells you this is what they're looking for, what are you going to do? Are you going to say we don't have it? Or are you going to say, oh, it's this? Okay. The Church of the Annunciation is in Nazareth. The Church of the Nativity is in Bethlehem. And the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is in Jerusalem. And what happened at each of these places, supposedly?
His arrival, pronouncement, his arrival, and his death.
Yes. And the website for the Church of the Holy Sepulchre says, come see where God lived and died and rose again. Because they not only have the Holy Sepulchre, but they also have 4 sites of the Via Dolorosa, which is the path that Jesus took to where? Calvary. And they also have Calvary. So it's gotten bigger. They've expanded out and put more and more sites in the walls. So doesn't the Bible say that Jesus was buried outside the walls? Well, they say, well, Herod made the walls bigger. I know. This used to be outside the walls, but now it's not. Okay. I'm sure he did. I have a whole list here of all of the things that have happened to Basilica of the Annunciation over here, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But,
You got those up there too?
yeah, you want to just see them? I can't keep talking. He's already rung the bell on me. All right, keep going. That's the Church of the Nativity.
What's that?
Same thing. That's people inside it.
This is really interesting.
Okay, this is Bethlehem. Does Bethlehem look like what you thought it looked like? I mean, you're like, where's the manger? I have one of these on the mantle board. 29,000 people live in Bethlehem. It's on the West Bank. Okay, next one. There it is again. That's Bethlehem. The Holy Virgin Mary Monastery in Asyut. Yeah, this is where the Holy Family stopped on their way to Egypt. Okay, there's Asyut. This is in Egypt. You don't think about Jesus being in Egypt, do you? Well, he was. Why was he there? To escape from Herod, who was doing what? Killing all the male children born around Bethlehem. And there was a prophecy that said, out of Egypt have I called my son. And they're like, wait a minute, he's supposed to be from Bethlehem. Yeah, you don't know the whole story. How many prophecies did Jesus actually fulfill? I think I've heard a sermon on this. It's like 40 or 50, but that's one of them. Okay, you can go there. It's a cruise site on the Nile. There it is again. All right, what's this? Oh, that's Jerusalem. Jerusalem has a population of 936,000. If you include the metro area, it's 1.3 million. This is Al-Aqsa Mosque on Temple Mount. Okay, keep going. That's Jerusalem again. In Vogue magazine. Okay. 12 injured in clashes at Jerusalem's mosque. Why would anybody fight over that? Do Jews and Christians want there to be a mosque on the side of the temple? I mean, we don't care, but some people do. All right, keep going. That's the inside. If I had time, I could tell you how old all this stuff is. It's not new, I can tell you that. Okay, what is this? Al-Maktas, the baptism site of Jesus in Jordan. See, Jordan gets in on it too, because Jesus was baptized at Enon, actually.
Where?
Enon. John the Baptist did it there because there was much water, okay. And this is it. This is where, supposedly. That's at Bethany, beyond the Jordan. Okay, keep going. There it is again. I don't want to get in that water. Keep going. This is the Mount of Temptation. What happened there? Satan took Jesus there after 40 days of fasting and showed him all the kingdoms and said, all you have to do is worship me and you can have them. Or you can throw yourself down and I'll catch you. Angels will show up because you're the Son of God. And he's like, what does Jesus tell him? It is written, you shall worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Not you, Satan. All right. Keep going. There's the monastery of the Mount of Temptation. It sounds like a bleak place to be. Keep going. Jericho is real close to that place. That's Jericho. Only 18,000. That's a pretty big place for that. Keep going. The Church of the Transfiguration on Mount Tabor. What happened there?
Jesus is transfigured.
Okay, keep going. See, there he is. There's the apostles, and there's Moses and Elijah, and Jesus is all white, just like it said. Okay, keep going. That's what you can see when you're on Mount Tabor, looking out from the Church of the Transfiguration. Isn't that pretty? It's nice. It was one of those self-loading screenshots, and I kept having to take pictures trying to catch it. Keep going. You for wanting to. Well, I mean, he was going to make one to the prophet. Okay. There might be 3 more pictures if you want to see them. That's brand new. It's the Church of All Nations at Gethsemane, at the Garden of Gethsemane. It's like, would you please, I'll just stop fighting and remember that Jesus suffered. Okay. And, yeah, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Keep going. There it is inside. There it is inside. That's the little one that they built a big one around it. And there it is. Yeah. Thank you. Huh?